Welcome back to Worth Coin, the channel where history and hidden treasures meet. Today, we're diving into one of the most iconic American coins, the Kennedy half-dollar, and counting down the top 4 most valuable and historic pieces you might have in your collection. First up, the 1967 Kennedy half-dollar is a fascinating piece of American coinage, both historically and numismatically. Struck during a turbulent time in U.S. history, this coin carries the legacy of a fallen president, the nation's transition away from silver coinage, and a unique minting process that sets it apart from earlier and later issues. It was produced at a time when the United States Mint was still adjusting to the coin shortage of the mid-1960s. Because of this, all 1967 Kennedy half-dollars were struck without a mint mark, even though they were made at multiple mints, primarily Philadelphia and Denver. No proof coins were made for circulation that year, but the mint did release a special mint set, or SMS, intended for collectors. These sets included a higher quality version of the coin, with better-than-circulation finish, but not quite up to the standard of traditional proofs. The 1967 Kennedy half-dollar is made of a 40% silver composition, a standard that began in 1965 and continued through 1970. The outer layer is composed of 80% silver and 20% copper, bonded to a core that's 21% silver and 79% copper. This gives the coin an overall silver content of about 0.1479 troy ounces. This composition is especially important because after 1970, the mint eliminated silver entirely from regular half-dollar coinage. Therefore, the 1967 half-dollar represents one of the last years silver could be found in circulating U.S. coins, making it more desirable to both silver investors and collectors. In terms of design, the obverse features the left-facing portrait of President John F. Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts. This design was introduced in 1964, just months after Kennedy's assassination, as a way to honor the 35th president's memory. The reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, features the presidential seal, showing a heraldic eagle holding an olive branch and arrows, surrounded by 50 stars. It's a bold and patriotic image that's become a recognizable part of American coinage. The edge of the coin is reeded, and it weighs 11.5 grams with a diameter of 30.6 millimeters. The total mintage for the 1967 Kennedy half-dollar was approximately 295 million coins, including both business strikes and the SMS coins. The extremely high mintage means that circulated versions are relatively common today, but their silver content still gives them intrinsic value. As of now, based on the spot price of silver, a typical 1967 half-dollar is worth around $6 to $8 in circulated condition just for its melt value. However, coins in higher grades, especially those with minimal wear, can be worth significantly more. Uncirculated examples might sell for $10 to $20, depending on condition and eye appeal. SMS coins from 1967 are particularly collectible. These coins have a satin-like finish with sharp details, and in high grades, especially with a cameo or deep cameo contrast, they can fetch $30 to $50 or more. Coins graded MS-67 or higher by services like PCGS or NGC are scarcer and can command even higher premiums. Next up, the 1989 Kennedy half-dollar is part of a long-running series that began in 1964 to honor President John F. Kennedy after his assassination. By 1989, the Kennedy half-dollar had already been in circulation for 25 years and had undergone significant changes in composition and role in everyday use. Unlike the original 1964 issue, which was struck in 90% silver, and the 1965 to 1970 issues, which were made of 40% silver. The 1989 Kennedy half-dollar was struck with a copper-nickel-clad composition, which became the standard starting in 1971. These coins consist of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, resulting in no silver content at all. As a result, the 1989 issue has no intrinsic metal value beyond its face value, but it holds historical and collector interest. The obverse of the coin features the classic portrait of President John F. Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts, which had become one of the most recognizable faces in American coinage by this time. The reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, displays the presidential seal, which includes a heraldic eagle clutching an olive branch and arrows, a shield on its chest, and surrounded by 50 stars. This patriotic design had remained unchanged since the series began, preserving the original tribute to President Kennedy's leadership and legacy. In terms of mintage, the 1989 Kennedy half-dollar was produced at two different mints, Philadelphia and Denver. The Philadelphia Mint struck approximately 24.5 million coins, marked with a P mint mark, and the Denver Mint struck around 23.5 million coins, marked with a D. In addition to these business strikes, the San Francisco Mint produced over 3 million proof coins for collectors, which are marked with an S. These proof coins were struck using specially polished dies and planchets, giving them a mirror-like finish and sharp details that make them ideal for display and grading. By 1989, the Kennedy half-dollar was still being minted for circulation, but its actual use in daily transactions had declined significantly. Most half-dollars, including the 1989 issue, were distributed primarily through banks or stored by collectors rather than used as common change. This lack of widespread circulation means that many examples of the 1989 half-dollar remain in relatively high condition, especially those saved shortly after minting. In terms of value, the 1989 Kennedy half-dollar in circulated condition is generally worth its face value of 50 cents. However, uncirculated examples, especially those in mint state grades such as MS-65 or higher, can be worth more to collectors. A high-grade uncirculated coin from either the Philadelphia or Denver Mint may sell for around $2 to $5, while coins in top grades like MS-67 or MS-68, especially those graded by PCGS or NGC, can command $20 or more. The real premium is found in the 1989 S-proof coins, which can range from $3 to $10 depending on quality and whether they show cameo or deep cameo contrast between the frosted design and the mirror-like background. Next up, the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar is a copper-nickel-clad coin that holds both historical and collector interest, even though it's not made of silver and is not considered rare. Introduced in 1964, just months after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, the half-dollar was designed to honor the 35th President of the United States. By 1973, the coin had firmly established itself in American coinage, and it continued to be produced annually, though its role in everyday commerce was starting to decline. The 1973 issue is particularly interesting because, although it was minted for circulation, none of the 1973 half-dollars were released to the public through banks. Instead, they were issued only in mint sets and proof sets, which means all examples from this year came directly from the U.S. Mint to collectors. This makes 1973 one of the few years where circulation strike Kennedy halves were not available for general public use, adding a subtle layer of rarity to circulated condition finds. The coin features the classic design by Gilroy Roberts on the obverse, showing a left-facing portrait of John F. Kennedy. The reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, displays the presidential seal with a heraldic eagle holding an olive branch and arrows, symbolizing both peace and strength. The reeded edge and bold lettering give the coin a strong, traditional appearance that's become iconic over the decades. Unlike earlier Kennedy halves from 1964 to 1970, which contained either 90% or 40% silver, the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar is made of a copper-nickel-clad composition. The outer layers are 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, giving the coin a total weight of 11.34 grams and no intrinsic silver value. This clad composition has been the standard since 1971. In terms of mintage, the Philadelphia Mint struck approximately 64.9 million coins without a mint mark, while the Denver Mint produced around 83.4 million with a D mint mark. The San Francisco Mint also created around 2.76 million proof coins marked with an S, intended specifically for collector sets. Because of the high mintage and the fact that these coins were only distributed in mint and proof sets, many of them remain in uncirculated condition today. When it comes to value, the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar in circulated condition is typically worth face value, 50 cents. However, uncirculated examples, especially those in high grades such as MS 65 or higher, can sell for between $2 and $10, depending on their condition and eye appeal. Proof versions from San Francisco, especially those with deep cameo contrast, may bring $3 to $12 or more, particularly if graded by services like PCGS or NGC coins in the highest grades, such as MS 67 or PR 70, are more rare and can command significantly higher premiums, especially with strong luster and no visible contact marks. Next up, the 1977 Kennedy half-dollar is a widely collected coin that represents the ongoing legacy of President John F. Kennedy on U.S. coinage. First introduced in 1964, just months after Kennedy's tragic assassination, the half-dollar was designed as a tribute to the 35th president and quickly became one of the most recognized coins in the United States. By the time 1977 rolled around, the Kennedy half-dollar had already been in production for over a decade and had transitioned fully away from silver into a copper-nickel-clad composition. The 1977 issue carries no silver content whatsoever. Instead, it follows the post-1971 standard composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel over a pure copper core. This clad design gives the coin a silvery appearance, but no intrinsic metal value. The total weight of the coin is 11.34 grams, and it has a diameter of 30.6 millimeters with a reeded edge. Despite its face value of 50 cents, the coin today serves more as a collectible or conversation piece than something you'd commonly find in pocket change. The obverse of the 1977 Kennedy half-dollar features a left-facing bust of President Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts. This iconic image was created from the official presidential portrait bust and has remained virtually unchanged since its debut. The word liberty arcs above Kennedy's head. The motto, "In God We Trust," appears across the lower portion, and the date, 1977, is displayed at the bottom. If the coin was minted in Denver, it will have a small D mint mark to the right of Kennedy's neck. Coins minted in Philadelphia that year do not carry a mint mark. On the reverse, the design by Frank Gasparo features the presidential seal, a heraldic eagle clutching an olive branch in one talon and arrows in the other, symbolizing peace and readiness for war. The eagle holds a banner in its beak that reads "A pluribus unum," and the entire design is surrounded by 50 stars representing the states. The inscriptions "United States of America" and "half-dollar" complete the outer ring. In terms of production, the U.S. Mint struck over 43 million Kennedy half-dollars at the Philadelphia Mint and more than 31 million at the Denver Mint. In addition, the San Francisco Mint produced about 3.25 million proof coins for collector sets. Despite the large mintage numbers, few of these coins circulated widely because, by the late 1970s, the half-dollar had largely disappeared from daily commerce. Most were hoarded, collected, or simply stored away, especially by those assembling full-date and mint sets. When it comes to value, the 1977 Kennedy half-dollar in circulated condition is generally worth only its face value of 50 cents, as there is no silver content. However, uncirculated coins, those with no signs of wear, can be worth more depending on their condition. Mint state examples graded MS-63 to MS-65 might sell for around $1 to $5, and coins in very high grades, such as MS-67, can command $25 to $100 or more, particularly if certified by PCGS or NGC. The 1977 D version tends to be a bit more common in higher grades, while high-grade Philadelphia coins are slightly harder to find.